Hi, it's Joshua with another edition of Mortgage Clarity, and this is video 5 in a series that we've been doing here about what the news is saying and trying to add a little more clarity to find out if what they're saying is true or if it's not true, if it's kind of true, but there's more to the story. And so this is another big one that I think you're probably just starting to hear the news talk about this one. And it's about whether or not the U.S. is headed for recession. So what about a recession? Are we in fact going to see the U.S. go into recession? Now, this video might be a little bit long, but I want to go over details for you guys to let you know what this means. And in short, if the news starts talking about a recession, I think they're right on this one. But I don't necessarily think that it's something to be afraid of. And that's my concern and why we're doing this video is usually when the news talks about recession, it's kind of fear-based and everybody thinks, oh my goodness, we're heading for the Great Depression. And that's not the way most recessions are like in the U.S. Most of us actually don't even really know we're going into recession until we're already coming out of recession. So let's take a look here about why we might think there is a recession coming. First thing I want to take a look at is there's a few different indicators that we look at that can help us kind of see where the economy might be going. And one of them is when the headline CPI, or the Consumer Price Index, which is a measurement of inflation, hits on average over a quarter 5%. So, over the last 3 months, has it been at or above 5% on average? When this happens, historically, look at back in the past, and again, it's important to note, past performance does not predict future performance, but in the past, that's a 45% chance that means that there's a recession coming in the U.S. This particular trigger happened in Q2 of 2000 or quarter 2 of 2021. Now, another indicator is it's called the U3 unemployment rate. This is a measurement of how many people in the U.S. are in employment, or the unemployment rate. So when that drops below 4%, where less than 4% of the population who's looking for work has work, then this is considered full employment. And when we get below the 4%, there's a 42% chance that the U.S. is actually going to experience a recession. And this is actually counterintuitive because most of us think about a recession happening when you have high unemployment. But actually, the recession starts with very low unemployment, and that's what triggers actually going into recession. Now, when we look at this matrix here, we saw that the United States had full unemployment that actually dropped below 4% unemployed in first quarter of 2022. Now, here's the big takeaway right here. When you have both of these things, when you have both the headline CPI, or rate of inflation, above 5%, and you're at full employment with unemployment under 4%, in the past, there's been a 100% correlation between that happening and a recession in the next 12 months. These two things happened first quarter of 2022. So again, that does not necessarily mean that it will happen in the future. It just means it's happened 100% of the time in the past. So let's take a look at recession now. What does this mean for housing? Does the housing market suffer during recession? And would that mean there's a buying opportunity for those who wait for that? So this here's a chart going back to the 1960s up through 2020. And the real dark bars you see here, these are times when the U.S. were actually in a recession. You can see we have multiple recessions throughout time here. The white line is showing you the value of homes as it's performing over time. Now, what I want to point out here is, with the exception of like 1960, where you did see a housing market exit the recession at a slightly lower price and then kind of went flat, we had a long period of essentially a flat housing market. And we saw it here in 2006. We had a recession, housing markets dropped. Now, I'm going to come back to that one, but what I want to point out is if you look at all these other times, housing values actually exited the recession period at a higher value than when the market entered it. Every single time it entered it, and then it went up, it went in, came out higher, continued up, went in, came out higher, went in, came out higher, all the way to right here. And actually, this is the most recent one, just before COVID hit. We were starting a recession, and housing values were going up great. And as you know, it's going higher. So what's different about 2006 and why it's really important? As tempting as it is to go back to 2006, that's your most recent memory of a recession and what happened to housing, is it's important to know that in 2006, that was a recession brought on by housing. It was a housing-led recession because of a bubble. To know more about the bubble, go back to the other video we did at the beginning of this series about the housing bubble and how we had so many more houses on the market than we needed compared to population because of loose lending requirement that was allowing people to buy more homes than they needed in hopes of kind of beating the market and values going up, fix it, flip it, and sell it for more money until all of a sudden the house of cards came crashing down. So you had this pullback. That is not where we're at today. So while I do think the news is going to be right in saying that we do have a recession coming, I actually think that presents an excellent buying opportunity for those who are in a position to buy. My reason for that is I do continue to think that recessions in the past do not seem to actually be something that hampers the rate of the value of homes. If you're in a high inflationary market like we are now, real estate is one of the best places to hedge against inflation because with inflation, home values go up as well. And usually when you have a recession, the other reason I think this could be good news is for those who are buying homes now, typically once the inflation peaks and a recession is going to cause that, that's kind of what's going to happen is the Feds will try to slow the economy down, recession. And as the inflation comes down as a result of a slower economy, you should probably see interest rates respond favorably. So I actually think that in the future, when we start to see the recession and the impacts of that, you'll actually see interest rates go lower. So you can capitalize on lower prices today than they will be 12 months from now. And when the rates start to come down, which may not be at month 12, but when they do start to come down, that gives you the opportunity then to refinance at that lower future rate at the current value of a home today. Now, with that said, I always want to make sure the housing payment you make, who knows what the future is going to bring, needs to be comfortable. Don't bet on the future. Make sure it's a good deal today. If you have any more questions, reach out to me. Put a comment in the video below. If you like this one, please hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more videos for mortgage clarity, hit the subscribe button and have an excellent day.